Alright, we're gonna start with a little experiment. Stand up. Yes, actually stand up. Go to a window. Find a tree. Any tree. If you live somewhere trees don't exist, I'm deeply sorry for your loss. That's wrong. Please stare at the photo of a tree and use your imagination. Now imagine a group of people walking in. They're all looking at the same tree. A fashion designer, a botanist, a linguist, a history professor, an aerospace engineer, and a poet. The question is, what does each one notice? What's their first impression of the tree? Let's see it through their lenses. The botanist is probably looking at the box on the tree and mentally calculating how much pesticide it takes to end the whole bloodline. And the linguist, I bet she's looking at the tree and mentally translating it in 12 different languages like شجرة, درخت, كيف, and so on. Meanwhile, the history professor wants to investigate a hanging that happened in 1642. And the poet, bless his heart, you could be standing there reciting some ancient Persian couplet like برگ درختان سبز در نظر هوشیار هر ورقش دفتری است معرفت کردگار. Super deep, very profound. If you don't speak Persian, that last part maybe just sounded like beautiful, melodic gibberish to you. And that's fine, that's actually the whole point. A random noise to someone could be pure poetry to someone else. That's actually how it feels to stand next to any specialist you're not trained in. Their professional perspectives are like a foreign language until you've trained your eye to read it. They are called specialists because they all spent years training to see the world that way. They have their own vocabularies, their own frameworks, which is great, but why is each of them limited to just one small slice of reality? It's like looking at a 4K movie screen, but being forced to watch it in black and white, with the sound off. You get the gist, but you miss the color, the emotion, lots of things. What if you could hold all those perspectives simultaneously? Instead of toggling between tabs, you see the entire desktop at once, just seeing everything at the same time, like a mind that runs in parallel, not in sequence. But how? The keyword here is polymathy. It's like giving yourself a superpower to see the whole layered image instead of one flat slice. That's what this episode's all about. Let's talk about what a polymath actually is. At its core, it's the idea that humans are limitless in their capacity for growth, that we should embrace all knowledge and develop our abilities as fully as possible. There are a lot of definitions out there. According to Wikipedia, a polymath is someone whose knowledge spans many different subjects. Okay, but that's not the whole picture. A polymath is not just someone skimming the surface of a dozen fields. A true polymath has real depth in multiple fields, and most importantly, they know how to connect them, how to integrate them. There's this researcher, Michael Oroki. He broke polymathy into 3 words: breadth, depth, integration. Breadth is knowing across many domains. Depth is knowing some of them well, but integration is the ability to take what you know from one field and use it to see something new in another. Leonardo da Vinci wasn't a polymath just because he could paint and do math and invent things. He was a polymath because he used mathematical principles in his paintings and then used those paintings to conceptualize his inventions. He didn't keep his skills in separate boxes, he combined them, and that's the key. Integration and having a multi-layered worldview is really helpful. For example, when I studied business, I thought I would stick to numbers. But then I read psychology, then technology, then philosophy, and each one added a layer. Business gave me structure. Psychology taught me why people act the way they do. Tech showed me how the world is being reshaped, and philosophy forced me to ask if any of it even matters. It's like looking at the same problem through different lenses. A specialist might polish one lens until it's crystal clear, but they will always be limited to that single frame. On the other hand, a generalist stacks lenses, creating a multi-layered view that connects fields together. The point of studying widely is not to dilute your focus, it's to weave depth in many directions until the whole picture comes alive. Think of it like painting. One color alone cannot capture the whole scene, but when you layer them, the image becomes vivid and real. Speaking of colors, here's a depressing fact. Human eyes, they only catch light from about 380 to 750 nanometers. And that's it. That's the whole window. The entire electromagnetic spectrum stretches far behind that. It's massive, and what we see is less than 1 trillionth of it. That means you're looking at the universe through a keyhole. We're missing oceans of reality. There are radio waves passing through your body right now. You cannot see them. There's infrared heat radiating from everything around you. You cannot see them. We're completely blind to them. Birds, bees, and reindeer can see ultraviolet. Some snakes see in infrared. And mantis shrimp, they have 12 color receptors. We have only 3. They can see a dozen colors we cannot even name. They see what we'll never see. It's not fair, but it's biology. On top of all that, your brain filters out most of what you do see. You don't believe me? Your brain erases your nose from your vision. Yes, your nose is there always, but your brain decides it's not important. It also fills in your blind spots. You have a literal blind spot in each eye, right in the middle of your field of vision, and your brain just covers it up, makes stuff up to fill the gap. It also erases the blood vessels in your eyes, conveniently removes them from your awareness so you don't see a tangled web of red lines every time you open your eyes. And that's just the visual system. The same brain gives people biases, blind spots in thinking, cognitive distortions, and 100 other ways of being wrong. It simplifies reality to not overwhelm you and not drown you in input. But imagine, just imagine, if you could see radio waves, infrared, UV, if you could perceive the world as it actually is, in all its chaotic, layered glory. You can't. Your biology literally won't let you, but intellectually, maybe you can. What if you could see behind the surface of ideas? What if you could understand how things work behind the scenes? Not with your eyes, with your mind. That's a real superpower, and you can develop it. It's called polymathy. The reason we can't see ultraviolet is biological. The reason we can't think across disciplines is cultural and psychological. You can't fix your biology yet, but your psychology, that's more flexible. That's yours to shape. It takes discipline and refusing to stay mundane, but when you do that, you break free. Here's a practical example of how a polymath thinks. Let's say you want to buy a car. Most people go to a dealership. They get told what to buy, then they leave with a car and a payment plan. Polymaths don't do that. They become their own consultant. They can learn whatever they need to know, so why outsource decisions to someone else's expertise when you can build the expertise yourself? With enough time and intention, you can build real competence in more than one field. You end up carrying several areas of real expertise at once. It's like having a team of experts living inside your head, all coexisting, all of them available on demand. Now, take that team and point them at something simple, like a car. Most people see a car and think, cool, it's red, it's beautiful. But when you are a polymath, your internal team, they are peeling that car like an onion. And I mean layers. The engineer in our head is already inside the engine, mentally, checking the combustion efficiency, the torque, the suspension, asking how good is this thing at turning fuel into motion. Meanwhile, the economist is doing math in the corner. She's calculating depreciation, maintenance costs, fuel, insurance, asking what's this really gonna cost me over a decade. And the mechanic, he's rolling his eyes at both of them. He's checking the service intervals, looking for common failure points. He's asking, can I fix this myself? Or am I gonna have to sell a kidney to pay the dealer? Then the designer comes in. She doesn't care about torque or cost. She's running her hand over the dashboard, feeling the textures, the leather, checking the proportions, ergonomics, the button placement, and she's asking, will this be a pleasure to touch and sit in every single day? And just when you think it's over, The data scientist raises his hand. He's not looking at the car at all. He's looking at the computer inside it, the sensors and software. He's asking, what data is this thing collecting on me and who is getting it? So, you see, that's what happens when you've got a whole team of experts in your head. That's the polymath brain. Not knowing all the answers, but knowing what questions to ask. And once you start thinking like that, you cannot stop. You look at everything like an onion. And honestly, it makes life way more interesting. There's an old story about Proteus. In Greek mythology, Proteus was an ancient sea god. He had one very unusual power. He could change his shape at will. It's a fascinating metaphor. The changing shape, the ability to reinvent and reconstitute oneself, is a psychological adaptation to a complex, rapidly changing world. Social identity theory tells us we all have multiple social identities. What's interesting is that each identity is active at a given moment actually changes what you perceive, what you remember, and how you reason. We're not the same person at work and at home, right? Now, imagine building deliberate, trained identities in multiple intellectual disciplines, being able to shift mood, mode, and your entire cognitive framework. You will be like Proteus. When the situation shifts, you shift. When the environment demands a new shape, you become that shape. This is something human psychology called subpersonalities. The idea that within a single person, different aspects of self develop their own coherent patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior. It's different from multiple personality disorder. That's a clinical dissociative condition. We're talking about something else. We are talking about distinct psychological modes that a healthy person moves between. A polymath expands this concept. One can have the brutal precision of a lawyer and the elegant intuition of an artist at the same time, plus 10 different selves, all looking at the same problem from different angles. To get that multi-layered view, you have to dive into as many fields as possible. I'll be honest, it's brutal. It takes years, a lot of energy, patience. It could be exhausting. You might be thinking, no thanks, I stick to one thing. I get it. But I realized most people did not arrive at that conclusion on their own. They were talked out of something they were already doing as kids. Kids are naturally curious. They ask endless questions, they don't know what limits are. Then, somewhere along the way, someone, like a teacher, a parent, career advisor, told them to focus, to specialize, to pick a lane. And they did. I bet this sounds familiar. Has anyone ever called you scattered, unfocused, that you have too many interests and can't commit? In English, they call you jack of all trades, master of none. In Cantonese, they say, equipped with knives all over, yet none is sharp. According to Koreans, the man of many talents has no supper. And in Persian, they tell you, با یک دست نمیشه چند تا هندونه برداشت. You cannot hold several watermelons in one hand. It's universal. Every language and culture has the same message. Pick one thing and stick to it. And I understand where it comes from. I really do. If I run a business and I need someone to do one specific thing extremely well, I want a specialist. If I'm getting surgery, I want a surgeon who has done nothing but this exact surgery for 20 years. Specialization makes sense in specific contexts, but here's what nobody tells you. That advice is about what other people need from you, not about what you need from your own life. They want you specialized because it serves them. It's very convenient for your community. A specialized person is predictable, easier to hire, easier to manage, and easier to replace. Easier to replace. If you go after being the best in the world at exactly one thing, the moment that thing becomes obsolete or automated or outsourced, you have nothing left. You built your entire identity on a single point of failure. It's like building a castle on a sandbar. It looks impressive, but the tide is coming in, and you're the only one who doesn't see it. What happens when AI takes your job and a machine does it faster? When someone younger does it cheaper? What happens when your single specialty leads nowhere? There's nothing wrong with being a specialist. I'm talking about dependency. It does not bring security. It's a bet, a gamble that your chosen skill will remain relevant forever. In the current world, changes are accelerating and excessive specialization is perceived as a risky strategy. Whoever mended typewriters has been left without a job. Video rental stores are gone. And whoever gambled their savings on one sole financial product have lost it all. There's a reason we say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Polymath is a long-term game. You have to be patient and keep building backup plans, building a worldview that can't be shattered by one lost job or one obsolete skill. You will be like a swift knife. A chef's knife is sharper. A dedicated screwdriver is more comfortable, but when you are in the middle of nowhere and you need to open a can, cut a rope, and tighten a screw, the swift knife is the only tool that works. It never gets left behind. That's the polymath advantage. You're bringing a whole toolbox, ready for anything. You can adapt and switch between roles depending on what the situation needs. You see how polyglots can switch languages so effortlessly? Sociolinguists call this code switching, how multilingual people shift between languages depending on context. It's not just vocabulary that changes. Research shows that when you switch languages, your reasoning style, your emotional tone, even your memory retrieval patterns shift. Entire neural networks activate and deactivate. There's a related phenomenon called frame switching, originally studied in people who grew up between two cultures. When you internalize two cultures deeply, you develop two different selves, with different emotional responses and different nutritions. Psychologists call this BIC, bicultural identity integration, the ability to hold two cultural selves and move between them fluidly without conflict. When integration is high, you can access whichever self is more useful in a given moment. Now, imagine applying the same mechanism to sciences. When a polymath is fluent in multiple fields, they can switch cognitive frameworks the way a polyglot switches languages. I always thought that polymath and polyglot are two sides of the same coin. If you're a polyglot, you go to a foreign country and you have no problem. You just shift your language, like switching from Persian to Chinese to English. It's the same with polymathy. When you're fluent in multiple fields, you just shift your skill depending on the environment, like switching from computer science to electronics to robotics. The polymaths and polyglots, they both become the person the situation needs. How does a person end up with their hands in a dozen different jars? I'll share my story, how I got tangled in a dozen different fields. The honest answer is, it was an accident. I have spent most of my life trying to answer one single question. When I was a kid, I had this vague, burning question I couldn't quite articulate. Something like, what's the one sim that solves all the other things? Is there one technology, one idea, one field of study that contains the solution to all of the world's biggest problems? Because if there is, I wanted to find it. I was ready to give my whole life to it, no hesitation. I just needed to know what it was. So I went looking. I zoomed in, literally. I thought the answer might be nanotechnology, the ability to redesign matter at a molecular level. The idea that if we can rebuild things atom by atom, we can fix almost anything. I spent 4 years studying it when I was in Olympias and got deep enough to see both its potential and its limits. The limits were always the same. Is it really accessible? Or is it just theory? So then I zoomed out. I moved to architecture and urban design. My family is in construction, and they taught me that our cities and environments shape the way we live. If we redesign them at a large scale, we can change everything. There's real truth in that, but again, the access problem followed me there too. Then I studied economics, psychology, human behavior, a bunch of other things. I was trying to find the root cause of the problem, the root cause of why good ideas don't reach everyone. I realized most of the modern world's tragedy is division, gaps between people. Then I thought maybe language was the key. That if we could truly communicate across cultures, if we could share ideas without the distortion of translation, something might shift. For 5 years, I got obsessed with languages, not just foreign languages, but also programming languages, because code is the language of machines, literally reshaping civilization, and most people don't speak it. I studied AI, blockchain, every hype cycle claiming to be the next big thing. I tested and traced every promising idea to its logical end, and every single time I hit the same wall. Access, distribution, who gets in and who doesn't. Technology existed, but not for everyone. The idea was solid, but it wasn't accessible. It wasn't distributed equally. Flying taxis exist, but only few privileged cities have them. Cancer treatment exists, but only some few people can access them. The knowledge is out there somewhere, the solutions are already there, but there are walls around them, like borders, paywalls, languages, gatekeepers, and those walls are the actual problem. So the answer is not a new technology or a secret formula locked away in a lab. The answer is openness, letting the ideas flow, making sure everyone can use the tools we already have instead of hoarding them. And that's it. That's the answer I was looking for. Connection, sharing, openness. I just had to look at enough different rooms to realize they were all pointing at the same door. I spent 10 years, jumping between disciplines. One day I'm reading about biology, the next I'm knee deep in history, then I'm trying to understand engineering, and the whole time, the answer was staring at me in the face. I just couldn't see it because I was looking through one lens at a time. It's not obvious when you're inside one bubble. When you're just a biologist, you think the answer is biology. When you're just an economist, you think the answer is economics. I had to bounce between several different fields and finally step back before I realized they were all yelling the same thing at me. And that's what polymathy gave me, the ability to look at physics, poetry, politics, and go, oh wait, that's the same conversation. Peter Hollins, in his book Learn How to Polymath, writes something that I've been thinking about. He says, the spirit of polymathy is largely independent of any particular field. It's not about what you study, it's about how you approach the act of studying. The spirit, he says, is about versatility, flexibility, and openness. Versatility, flexibility, openness. And that's exactly what open thinking is. Open thinking is the decision to approach knowledge without predetermined conclusions, to stay genuinely curious about what's true rather than defending what you already believe. You cannot be a polymath without open thinking. They're not separate things. A closed mind cannot learn across disciplines because a closed mind has already decided what's relevant to it. A closed mind already knows what it is and what it isn't. It's already labeled itself. But polymaths don't define themselves. They keep open to possibility and potential as long as possible. The labels we give ourselves, like, I'm an artist, I'm not mathematical, these labels are the fences we build around our own minds. When you say, oh, I'm not a tech person, or that's not really my area, you draw a line around what you're willing to see. Polymaths don't do that. They refuse to let their identity tell them what they're allowed to be interested in. And that refusing to be boxed in is the same thing as open thinking. Let me come back to the tree example. The artist, the botanist, the linguist, different people, all looking at the same tree. The scientist can tell you what a tree is made of. The engineer can tell you how it stands. And the botanist can tell you if it survives. Now, what does the polymath see? Imagine someone who studied all of those things, not at the same level as each individual expert, but enough to have all answers available. She zooms in. She might look closely at the veins of a leaf and notice a branching structure. Then she steps back and sees something similar in roots, branches, rivers, neurons, blood vessels, and road networks. Somehow, the same visual language keeps appearing. She does it again. Zoom in, zoom out. Why do completely different systems sometimes look so similar? She asks questions. That question might take her from biology to mathematics, from neuroscience to network science, networks lead to urban planning, rivers lead to geography, and suddenly, 5 minutes later, she fell into a rabbit hole of dendroclimatology, the study of historical climate through tree rings. That's probably my favorite thing about multidisciplinary thinking. You never really know where a conversation with them is going to take you. You start by looking at the leaf, and somehow you end up thinking about civilization. Same thing kinda happened here in this episode. Somehow we managed to start from a tree, mention electromagnetic spectrum, GIS, BIC, sociolinguistics, even the Greek sea god Proteus. Honestly, don't ask me how we got here. As Proteus, according to the myths, he knew all things, past, present, future, and could answer any question posed on him. However, getting his knowledge is no simple task. If you wanted an answer from him, you had to catch him fast. And when you grabbed him, he would transform into a lion, snake, fire, water, anything to scale. You had to hold on tight, no matter what form he took. Eventually, he would give you the answer you were seeking. I guess he was an introverted polymath or something. He knew everything, he just didn't want to explain it. Or maybe because it's a bit hard to articulate all those complex thoughts and explain them to everyone. I have a habit, bad or good, it depends on who you ask. When I talk or write about something, I tend to pull from a dozen different areas at once. It's like I'm a magpie, collecting shiny ideas from different fields and dropping them all on one page. Land surveying, botany, and ancient gods, they all might end up in the same paragraph. It can be a lot. Sometimes people get lost, which is completely understandable. To make up for it, I use a lot of analogies, examples, and illustrations. I want you to know there's a blog that goes along with this podcast. Same topics but in writing, because some people prefer to read. So if you're listening and thinking, I need to see this drawn out, head over there. It's all linked in the show notes. I tried my best to simplify, but I would love to hear your feedback. Let me know what you think.